Hey, welcome back to Yev's Builds. We're here with another video, and today we're going to be doing the Vanos preventative maintenance on this S54 E46 M3, okay? So I like to work in freedom, so what I've done to remove the valve cover is pretty much remove everything that's in the way. The fan shroud, the air intake box, this piece for the cabin air filter. We removed all that just to get it out of the way. Obviously some things are still there, but it's kind of difficult. But once you get this removed, first thing you want to do for the Vanos job is take off the solenoid pack, okay? For you to take off the solenoid pack, first you're going to need to loosen this little, I forget what it's called, pressure relief thing. It's a 22 mil socket. Just release it just a little bit, and then what you're going to want to do is you're going to take a 5 mil hex, and for that there are 5 bolts you're going to need to unscrew in order to remove the solenoid pack. There's 3 up top and 2 on the bottom. These 2 are shorter, these 2 are longer. Remove them, put some sort of rag underneath just so the oil doesn't start dripping all over the coolant lines and all that. Also, there's a sensor right here to the side. Yep, exactly. It's a little bit dirty there. There's 2 tabs on it. You just want to pull on them and you will remove the sensor. So you want to take a 5 mil. You want to loosen up all of these, right? There's three up top, up the top. That one's really loose, and that one's really loose. Great. There's one. Alright, there's one of the long ones. One short one. Another long one. A little short one. And for the last bolt, while you're unscrewing it, you want to kind of hold the solenoid pack from the bottom. I mean, it's not gonna fall off, but so you can remove it safely. There it is. Came off with the plate that we will be replacing. Perfect. You can wipe that off. That is the solenoid pack. You can now put this to the side somewhere. Make sure all these bolts and everything is held together. Don't lose them. After you pull the solenoid pack off, you want to put the motor at its top dead center, right? So I have a little pin over here. It's already at top dead center. You want to put a 32 mil socket on your crank. There's a place to put this pin. It's like a little triangular shape in there with the hole. You slide this pin right in, and on the crank pulley, there's gonna be a 3-letter marking, right? There's gonna be, I can see a T on the very right, an I in the middle, or it might be a 1. Pretty much that's when you know it's at top dead center. There's gonna be a little hole in the pulley. Once the little arrow right here, I don't know if you can see it, that little arrow is gonna be pointing at the 1. That's when you know it's at top dead center. Also, a good way to know, when your pin is in, these 2 cam holes right here for the timing tool, they're gonna be vertically up. In my case, my timing is a little bit off, as you can see, because if you take your timing tool and you put A on the exhaust and the E on the intake cams, this pin goes into 1, right? It goes into this one, but it doesn't go into this cam at all. So we're gonna have to adjust that. Next up, you want to take some vice grips, in my case, or a 24 mil open end wrench. You want to put these, and you want to retard the camshafts a little bit so that the pressure releases the oil, right? Since the solenoid pack is released, put a rag underneath, move the camshaft counterclockwise. That way it's going to be spraying out oil. So you want to kind of go back and forth on these a little bit, right? And you're going to hear and you're going to feel a bunch of oil getting squirted out from the regulator, from the bottom of the solenoid. That means all the pressure, the oil pressure is getting released, and you do that to both of them. There you go. Once you get a bunch of good squeezes in, you want to wipe it clean from the bottom. Once the pressure is relieved from the solenoid, the Vanos itself at this point, you want to do that following step with the camshaft. I'm going to retard them a little bit to release the pressure, the oil pressure. Next up, yes, I have a whole list of what I'm doing here, okay, just to be sure. So now we want to remove camshaft chain guide. There are 2 5 mil hex, same tool we've been using for a little while already. You want to clean up your area just a little bit, just so your tool can get right in. Be very careful, because you do not want to drop anything inside your head. Two 5mm. Get them both loose at first. There you go. Are you filming?
Yeah.
There we go.
Gotta get your dad in the shot a little bit.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Two 5mm right there. The chain guide little cover, it removes just like that. You want to put that to the side. These two bolts also hold that little bracket in the inside as well. So you're going to need to get two 10mm. Remove these two bolts. Very careful not to drop anything inside the motor, and you should be fine. Take this little guy and you slide him right out. Put him aside somewhere. Next up, you want to remove the oil accumulator line. This is going to be a 14mm banjo bolt. There's going to be a 10mm bolt right there. It holds the line, and there's going to be another 10mm bolt underneath the coolant pipe. It's going to be way underneath. So there's two 10mm and one 14. Also, when you remove this banjo bolt, there's going to be two little washers. Ideally, you want to replace those. One's going to be on top of the banjo bolt, and one's going to be on the bottom. You want to put those aside. You want to wipe all this stuff off and remove the other two that are holding it. Here's another thing. When you finish the job and you put everything back, and you still have bolts loose, you did the job wrong, man. So don't have any bolts laying around. We're gonna have fun finding this one back. The whole great. This one's short though. It's really short actually. Now you can move this aside somewhere, because you want to be careful. Don't want to bust it anywhere, but you do not need this right now at all. It's a hard line, so be really gentle with it. Don't crack it, don't break it. So next up, we're removing the actual Vanos itself, right? The bolt that holds the line to the Vanos is actually a bolt you're gonna have to remove to get the Vanos off. It's one of the two 10mm bolts on the side, one on each side, right? And then three 5mm hex bolts on the bottom of the Vanos.
This guy loves Taco Bell. Eats it every day.
I do. I'm surprised I'm still alive.
It's bad for you.
It's bad, you'll have heartburns.
But he loves heartburns.
I don't love heartburns, I just love Taco Bell. Pretty much, once you remove all these bolts, you want to leave the two 10mm in, just a little bit on the Vanos. Just because when you're going to be pulling on this, you don't want it to fly out and hit you or whatever. But yeah, just put them in, a couple threads in, leave it in, you're good. You're going to want to take some sort of plastic prying tool because you're going to want to get in there. It's going to be a little bit difficult. Do not pry this with anything metal because you'll damage the head and it's going to be a bad situation for everybody. Pretty much, you're just going to have to really pull on this, use your strength. There is a metal gasket in here, which we will be replacing, so you want to keep that in mind. Just use something plastic that won't
Tap it in.
damage your head. See what I mean? If this was metal, that would have been bad. That's why we use plastic. Come on, boy, there we go. There we go. Get it. Now you can remove these two 10mm. So to loosen these little pistons on the splines, take a 10mm and a 7mm open-ended wrenches, right? You put them up like so. And to loosen them up, you gotta go clockwise because these are reverse thread, right? There you go. You loosen them up on both sides, just like that. We apologize if you can't really see, it's really difficult, but here you go. Be careful, because once these are loose, well, your Vanos is coming right off. Oh, bro, bad news. My camshaft hub is actually broken. So if you're like me and you're doing this as a preventative maintenance type thing, it's a good thing to do it. I really recommend it, because as you can see in my case, the little tab on the exhaust hub broke off, which means this is potentially why my timing is a little bit off, but also this means that the second piece on the hub would also break off sooner than later, because honestly, if that hub is on one, if it's holding on only by one little, little notch, then dude, this could have become not a $600 repair, but a $3,600 repair. You know what I mean? Like, this could have been really bad. So we're gonna go order a new part. We'll come back later, but I highly recommend doing this job to prevent bigger damage to your motor, because man, this could have been real bad. So we'll see you later.
So if you need M3 parts, you got some right here.
We got some right here. That's what I'm talking about. Hell yeah. So this is a week later. We got our new exhaust hub, okay? This piece is crucial to this because if it breaks, it's not good, man. So this one actually I got from Vac Motorsports, as well as all these bolts that we're going to be replacing anyway. Yeah. This is a Vac Motorsports exhaust hub. This piece alone was about $650. It's not fun, but you know, at least you got to replace this and not half your engine. We also got these bolts from the same company, from Vac Motorsports. These bolts, we'd have to be replacing them anyway. It's all these bolts as well as the bolts from underneath these hubs as well. So we'll be replacing that. As you can see, a week ago we left off on this, realizing that it's broken, this hub, right? What I did now, I stuffed this piece down just so when we're going to be removing all these bolts, nothing dropped. I took a paint marker, I marked all these down just so they'd go back pretty much in the same place where they were. You mark the chain, you mark the hub, you mark the hub, and then you mark the spline. This one is not really out all the way, so we're going to be loosening all these bolts to get it out. We'll mark it down later. This hub we'll be replacing anyway, but it's supposed to go in the same way, right? So there's a little opening right here, as well as in there. And so this little opening has to be up top, as you can see. These little lobes, they have to be on the sides, all that. We'll get to that in a sec. To get the splines out, you're going to want to loosen all these bolts. There's 6 of them on each hub. You'll be loosening, don't remove them completely all the way, not yet at least, just so you can get the hub out. Just loosen them until you can get the spline out. It's a 10 mil bolt. You just loosen them up a little bit, a couple turns really. Okay, that one's out, one on the bottom. Just like that, okay? And start pulling on the spline. See, it's starting to move, but it's not coming out yet. So you loosen them up a little bit more. And keep in mind, when you do remove the spline, it will twist on you. Just be mindful of that. And don't be in a rush, because that never leads anywhere good. Okay, so see how the whole hub starts to move now? We're getting there. These bolts are pretty much all loose. There we go. So then later on, when we're going to be putting them back, these splines, after we rebuild them, we will be aligning them back, and you know, they'll go in a certain way. And that's pretty much it. So you want to put that aside. Make sure you keep in mind that this is the intake one. Do the same to the exhaust hub. And there we go. Loosened up. Put this aside. We're going to be redoing these splines, pretty much the rattle. Now we're going to be replacing the bolts. That's why we're doing this job, to prevent any sort of failure. All good, but we have a blown exhaust hub. So now these hubs actually removed. Be really careful, because there is this pretty much, I do not know what they're called, but it's kind of like a big washer. It goes in here, and it only goes in one way, right? There's little openings right there, specifically for this. You can just remove that, put it back. It only goes in one way. Great. See, these are the bolts that we will be replacing on all of these. These go out as well. The way you can tell is if they're moving around or if they're making some sort of sound. You could remove this hub as well. This one's out and about, dude. We don't need this guy. We'll be replacing him with this Vac Sports one. Sick. I already marked this up. That sits right in there. And then this piece. Don't make that mistake. We're not going to be replacing them all at once. We're going to replace them one at a time individually. So you're going to be unscrewing one, taking another one in, and putting Loctite on it, putting it back in, tighten it to spec, which is 12 Newton meters or 9 foot-pounds. You tighten that to spec, you're going to need a torque wrench for that. And then you kind of go crisscross. You don't go in order, you just go in a star formation pretty much, just to get the even tension all around. You are going to want to clean it up as best as you can from any sort of oil or residue. Put a little line. Make sure it goes in nice and easy without any sort of resistance. Boom. That one's tight to spec. Great. Now let's untorque the one from the bottom. Boom, just like so, man. Tighten it to spec. Double check. There you go, and just do the rest. You just do the same for all of them. While we're down here, I'm gonna be replacing my timing chain guide just because they have a tendency of going out. Mine seems to be fine still. It doesn't seem like it's cracked or broken anywhere, but we'll see, you know what I mean? So for that, we're gonna need to actually loosen up the tensioner, the timing chain guide tensioner. It's a giant bolt right down there, and it's kind of like it's pretty big, so you're gonna need a 32 mil. You want to put some rags underneath just because you will have oil coming out. Once you have that out, there should be a crush washer on here. It's probably on there, yep, I could see it, it's right there. You'll be replacing that. Okay, so now that the chain is significantly loose, right? As you saw earlier, we did mark these down, right, with the paint marker. But I saw a good tip of somebody doing this job, and they zip tied the chain to the intake sprocket. Pretty much we're gonna be removing the exhaust sprocket now in order to get the chain off. Just wanna pull on it gently, just like so. And just like that, you remove the sprocket. You're gonna want to mess around with the chain a little bit to get it out of the way, just like that. Just to preserve this to be in the same position as it was, right? Next up, there's the chain. Oh boy, guess what? My timing chain guide is cracked. We are lucky we're doing this job now, dude. You can see, it's broken into two, right there. If you move it, the second half is still in there. So, okay, great. So to remove that, there's a hex, 10 mil hex bolt right through here, right over here. You remove it, and it comes off fairly easy at that point. There we go, that is loose. So, put this aside. There's two pieces, and one of them went a little bit further. There we go. This is why you buy everything you need beforehand. See how much shorter it is? The second piece is in there. Just like that. You want to gently slide in, have the bolt ready, just like that. Oof, that is good. Okay, well, see, it's on the bolt already. And this is kind of in the way, so. There we go. Now that that's tight, we can put this sprocket back on. Remember the marking you made? It has to be aligned exactly with where you made the marking. Boom. It was back to where it was. See that? It's lined up exactly. The line that we made with the chain and everything, it's good. So now, you take your tensioner, and you want to put that back in. Before you tighten the tensioner, you want to make sure that, see these lines, see those, the back hub, right, the back plate? The hubs go into that. The hubs screw into them. So you want to make sure that that hole is parallel with these two bolts. So these holes are parallel with them, and same with these, similar with these. The back plate, the holes, the thread holes are supposed to be right in the center of each of these, right, of the openings, right? So then you want to get your hubs, want to clean them up, make sure your plates are where they need to be. This marking that we've made a while back with the chain, it actually will match up with the thread hole right in the middle, right in the back, if you can see that. It's kind of low, but, so yeah, so pretty much nothing is tight yet, but you want to take your bolts, we have new ones now from Vac Motorsports, and you want to hand tighten them. There we go. That is in. You want to take your bolt, and you want to put it through, and you want to make sure that it's right in the middle of that whole rear assembly. There you go, you can see it through the back. You want to hand tighten them. You do that to all of these. Same concept on the exhaust hub, same idea. You want to do that on all of them and move on from there. After you hand tighten all these bolts and all your markings are correct and they're aligned with one another, right? Then I take the tensioner and I tighten it all the way. You're supposed to have clearance in between these. They're not supposed to go in through one another. It's supposed to be a little bit of clearance. It's supposed to move like this a little bit, by the way, after tensioning it. I take my timing tool that you can get on ECS Tuning. I could link that in the bio, in the description. Pretty much, this is a good time to check your timing because at the beginning of this video, my timing was actually off. This exhaust cam was turned more counterclockwise than the right one, than the intake one. So now after adjusting it, you take a 24 mil open end wrench and you kind of move it back and forth wherever you want it to be. That's how you adjust your timing. And if both of these are going in smoothly, which they are, your timing is as good as it can get at this point.